Hey, good morning, Horizon Church. It is for you, and I apologize again that one more time you do not get to do this live and have your interaction. It's May 4th for you, and I'm probably close to being on a plane headed home today. Um, but for me, it is still April 23rd, Friday, and just wanted to do one more video for you to fill in the Tuesday morning the morning prayer. But because it is, I have no idea what has transpired in the world between April 23rd when I'm doing this and May 4th when you're watching it. But this week, the week that we have just been through in April, it's been a pretty difficult week, a pretty troubling week. We had the verdict in the George Floyd murder trial, and we had the shooting at the Wawa station not far from here, in which a young man went to work in the morning, was filling up his truck with gas, and was killed by, for lack of a better word, a random shooting. And, three young kids. It's just horrific. And it's been on my mind a lot, that young family, George Floyd's family. And of course, recently we've been through several other episodes of shootings and just horrible, horrible things going on. And I have the reason I guess I wanted to chat about this is because I've seen several posts recently about what's going on, and one or two of them have referenced. In fact, I saw some. I don't remember where it was. I don't think it was Facebook. It may have been on the news, a newsy blog that I watch. Somebody referenced the old John Lennon song, Imagine. And the reference was, in essence, if only we could live by the lyrics of this song. Somebody else on that same theme referenced, I guess it's a Paul McCartney song, Give Peace a Chance. And I have always, along those lines, I've always remembered 20, 25 years ago. I should have looked this up. I did not. But there was an episode in which a black man, and I apologize, I don't recall his name. It's a long time ago. It was beaten horrifically, I think nearly to death. And there were riots, and he went on, he recovered enough, and he went on the news, tried to quell the riots by saying, can't we just all get along? And many people remember that and that phrase, can't we all just get along? And those ideas, we keep saying things like this. What's wrong with us? Can't we just give peace a chance? Can't we all just get along? That is something that all of us want. Every single one of us who are sane want that. We want to be able to just all get along. We want to be able to give peace a chance. And we get frustrated. We get so frustrated because we say, why can't we? Why can't we all just get along? Why can't we just give peace a chance? And I got to tell you, as much as I like the music to the song Imagine by John Lennon, I hate the song. And I know I'm going to tick off a lot of you who love it. I hate it. And I'll tell you the reason I hate it is I hate the lyrics. And I hate the fact that the Beatles, those four guys, could not, even among the four of them, make the song work. They couldn't live by the lyrics themselves. Four guys, and they couldn't live by the lyrics themselves. And, what bugs me, and I know probably some of you know more about the song, and, maybe you'll be posting and sending me nasty emails, and maybe there's stuff I don't know about it, but it always bugged me because I always felt preached at that here are four guys, part of the hippie culture that I was a little bit too young to be part of, who were really good at pointing fingers to everybody else, but couldn't make it work themselves. And see, that's the problem. That's where we are with this idea of, give peace a chance. Why can't we all just get along? And we all want that, but there's a very real reason why we can't. And that is, for that to happen, for us to give peace a chance, for us to be able to just get along, we have to become people who do the things necessary to make peace have a chance. We have to be the kind of people who are willing to do the things necessary to just get along, and we're not. This is not just about a desire, like looking, it's not just about being able to look at our world and say, what's wrong with us? Why can't we just live in peace? Or what's wrong with us? Why can't we just get along? The problem is, for that to happen, we have to actually become the kind of people who do the things necessary to get along, and we don't. Our our difficulty is not the desire. The desire is there. Our problem is the actual transformation. This requires This requires a change in us. We have to be willing to do the things that are necessary to get along. We have to do the things necessary to not live in strife with others. And we're willing to say, I wish for that. But what most of us are not willing to do is actually do the hard work of doing it. What we are more interested in doing is living just as we are. And the way we live is what makes strife and difficulty normal. And so here we are. We live in a world where these are the kind of things that normally happen. And thankfully, I don't mean by that shootings at Wawa normally happen. But what I mean is we live in a world where strife and discord, fractured families, and brokenness are normal. It's all around us. And the reason is because that's the kind of people we are. And giving peace a chance, just getting along, is a great wish. But for that to happen, we have to be the kind of people who make that happen. And that only happens when we start to be transformed people. So if that's something that you are interested in, if you yourself find yourself saying, why can't we all just get along? Why can't we give peace a chance? Then let me challenge you and me to start thinking about, well, what would that mean for me? If I wanted to be the kind of person that figures out how to just get along with others, what would that mean? So let me challenge you, for example, to think about the very next time that you are in some kind of strife or discord in a relationship. Maybe you're even in one now. I want you to think about, what would it require of you? Stop thinking about the other person for now. What would it require of you to be able to give peace a chance, to live without the strife? I want you to think about the conversation that would be necessary for you to have. To be able to have a conversation with a person in which maybe you start out by asking for forgiveness for something that you have said or something that you've thought. Imagine a conversation in which, rather than continuing the strife or the difficulty that you've had, that you actually sit down and you listen. Again, this subject may be part of this Sunday's sermon. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to make the final cut or not. But imagine a conversation that you have in which you say, I want to listen to and I want to hear your side. When we converse, again, this may be old news. Maybe we talked about this on Sunday. Although I guess that's wishful thinking on my part. That it will be remembered on Tuesday. But imagine a conversation in which you sit down and you say, I want to actively listen to you. I want to understand what you're thinking. Most of our conversations, you have two people who are actually talking more about themselves than they are engaged in a conversation. Somebody will say, had a really bad week. My boss at work was just driving us insane. And the other person will say, oh my gosh, me too. My week was terrible. The workload is horrific. And the other person says, yeah, so you're feeling it too. I go home at night and I'm just worn out. And then the other person says, oh my gosh, me too. I don't have energy to do anything. All I want to do is sit in front of the TV. And the conversation goes back and forth like that. And if you think about it, what that conversation is two people having a conversation about themselves. They're not engaged with the other person. It seems like we are, but what we're really doing is talking about ourselves. And that's the way a lot of our conversations go. So what would happen if you have a conversation in which you actively practice listening? And this is something you and I can work on. And if you want to give peace a chance, if you want to be a person who is learning to just get along with others, your conversation is going to have to change, and you will have to learn to become much better at listening. So, this is just one skill that you can develop to do this, to actually do what we say we want to do, and to actually become the kind of person necessary to give peace a chance. So, learn to actively listening. And actively listening means you're going to learn to, instead of diving right into, oh, me too, you ask questions and you make it your point to make the other person the subject of the conversation. Ask questions. When somebody says to you, I had a horrific week, say, oh, wow, you work late? Any kind of questions like, oh, wow, tell me more about what your week was like. What'd your boss do? What'd your boss say? What did other coworkers say? Actively engage by asking questions and make the other person the focus of your conversation. And this it helps to develop in you the gift of empathy and concern for the other person, rather than making the conversation about you. What this is growing in you is the ability to listen and to understand other people. We are not that way in our culture, which is why we are not the kind of people who are capable of giving peace a chance. We're not the kind of person who is capable of just getting along, because we're very self-absorbed. We want our way. We want to be heard. So does the other person. So give that other person a gift. The fantastic skill that you can learn to develop that will help you to become the kind of person that we want to be. Actively listen. And actively listen means asking questions. So let me suggest that you begin to learn to do that. There's going to be a lot of false starts for all of us. Sometimes you will find yourself transitioning into, oh yeah, me too. Or you'll find yourself like all of a sudden realize, oh, I kind of was daydreaming there for a while. But just actively listen. And the number one thing that you can do to actively listen is to ask questions. And even instead of making statements, to ask questions. Just a great skill. Practice asking questions. So I want to suggest to you that the next time you have a conversation with us, when you're any kind of a conversation, see if you can get through a whole conversation without having to say, yeah, me too, or talking about yourself. See if you can get through one whole conversation simply by focusing on the other person, asking questions, drawing that other person out, finding out what he or she is thinking about, finding out what he or she is troubled by, finding out what their worries are, and actively listen, engage. The other person in the conversation might ask about you, and fine. If they start saying, so tell me about your day, that's an invitation, and go right ahead. But for most of us, we do it without even the invitation. Where we immediately launch into me too, because we want to be heard, and of course we do. Nothing wrong with that desire to be heard, but the reality is, if we want to be the kind of people who give peace a chance, if we want to become the kind of nation like that, the kind of culture, if we want our church to be that way, it requires us to put ourselves aside. There's actually a whole lot of joy in that when we figure out how to do it. You will start to experience a lot more joy in your relationships when you become the kind of person who listens well and who grows empathy. But it's a skill you're going to have to grow, a skill you're going to have to learn to develop. We do. So that's my little bit of a challenge. See if you can get through a conversation with anybody, husband, spouse, neighbor, coworker, whatever, in which you focus the whole attention on that other person by asking questions. Tell me about it. And see what happens if you practice continuing to ask questions and draw that other person out. It can be a challenge, and see how that challenge goes. But that's where we are, and that's what's been, like I said, this may I guess, wishful thinking, that when you're listening on Tuesday, May 4th, that maybe, well, no, wait. Tuesday, May 4th, this will be like 10 days away because it's this sermon for the April 25th. So forget it. I don't have any wishful thinking anymore. But I may be talking about this on Sunday as well. Our tendency in conversations to do the Me Too and to have two people who are in conversation but are really talking about themselves. Very common, happens all the time. I do it. I'm ashamed of it, but I do it all the time. The Me Too. But what it prevents by doing that is it prevents us becoming the kind of people for whom it is possible to give peace a chance. Prevents us from becoming the kind of people for whom it is possible to say, can't we just all get along? So start there. Start there with just that one little skill, the skill of listening, and see if it doesn't help to change you, transform your character, as God works in you when you start to pay attention to other people. So I am going to pray for us and our culture and our society, and I have no idea what's going on in our world on May 4th because we ain't there yet. We're a ways away. I am probably either in an airplane or sitting in an airplane weeping because I am leaving my grandkids, my new grandson I just met. And Donna and I have already been talking about trying to stick them in suitcases and bring them home. Wish we could. Anyway, so let me pray. God, thank you for this day that we have lived, even though for me it is a day in the future. God, I don't know what's transpired in our world or in our lives between the day I'm talking and the day that we're watching this. But God, I trust that in all of our lives you have continued to make us aware of your presence. And I pray that you've been helping us to grow in trust. And I pray that you have continued to transform us, doing your master work of making us to be the kind of people you want us to be. God, I pray for each of us. I pray, God, for that family of that young man who was killed in Wawa. God, it's just unbelievable to imagine the phone call that poor young wife got and how those kids are adjusting. I pray, God, that you'd be meeting their needs. And if there are ways that we can help, God, I pray that you'd be motivating us to do so. God, I pray for the family of George Floyd. Pray for the family of Derek Chauvin, too. All those people's lives have been so tragically messed up by just the horrendous action of one man. I pray, God, for healing. Pray, God, that you'd be bringing justice and mercy to the people of our country. Please, God, be making us the kind of people for whom it is possible to get along. Pray, God, you'd be making us to be the kind of people for whom it is possible to give peace a chance. Help us, God, to be interested in something that is more than slogans and lyrics to a song, but be interested in the very real possibility of peace and justice. Transform us, and by doing so, transform our world. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Alrighty, everybody. Love you all. Hope you have a very good rest of the day, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.